All right, my beautiful friends, here we go. It is Tuesday, January 7th, 2020. I honestly don't like what I am seeing here right now, pre-market, and we're going to talk about why. So right now, stock futures are pointing towards a slightly lower open. Okay, this should be expected after that epic run-up we had yesterday. Nothing short of miraculous yesterday. This market, it's incredible. Especially towards the end of the day, that surge of buying. Gotta own stocks, right? Meanwhile, the entire yield curve flattened out. But today, we got some interesting action here. We got metals flat. We got cryptos flat. However, we have a dollar that's gaining some strength here. That, in this environment, look, you always got to look for tells, okay? In this environment, the dollar now getting a knee-jerk higher, at least now, pre-market, this really could be a prelude for what I've been explaining to you and I laid out for you yesterday. And it plays right into what we're seeing with crude oil right now. So crude oil is having a hard time holding on to the gains from the last airstrike. This scares me, and it should scare you too. This will not be allowed to play out. In my opinion, right now, there's already another strike planned. I don't know when it's going to happen. I would imagine relatively soon. And it's a mechanism. Prop up crude, prop up the energy sector, the financial sector will follow, the defense stocks are going to get bid up. It's enough to push the stock market higher. That's what this is all about, at least for now. Because again, understand, the grand plan here is, pretty much what I laid out yesterday. I'm not going to cover it again. If you did not see the video that I did last night, I would suggest looking at it endgame. But the setup here is very simple. Hyperinflate the stock market, hyperinflate certain assets, keep others suppressed until we hit that moment of reckoning. And that moment of reckoning, people, mark my words, is coming. And how do we know that? Not only have we seen it time and time again without exception, if you understand what's really going on here, it's the Federal Reserve that's running the entire show, and our bought and paid for government that are serial bubble blowers. They inflate bubbles, they deflate bubbles. They inflate bubbles and they deflate them. The deliberate act, wealth transfer, rob whatever's left of the middle class, absolutely blind, through every mechanism you can possibly think of. Right now, members of the middle class who have interest earning accounts are being robbed blind, and that cash that that's being stolen from them via this mechanism of suppressed rates, and the fact that interest earning accounts are not keeping up with the actual rate of inflation. We have negative rates. This is forcing cash into the stock market. Again, it's a bubble. It's a deliberate act on the back of the debt bubble. And that should scare you even more, because that is the end game. The final solution is very simple. Central banks to own everything. It's not just the Fed, although the Fed is the central bank of central banks. Why? Because the US dollar is the world reserve currency, at least for now. And look, with this mechanism in place here, people, and world leaders calling on their central banks to go negative, to issue more debt, don't you realize, at least finally now, that this is the plan to allow the central banks to become the lenders and buyers of last resort so they can own everything? I mean, the stage is set. We have a world. Nations around the world are slaves to their central bank, none more so than the United States of America. the largest debtor nation in the history of the world. And our citizens here are more indebted than anyone else on the planet Earth, where 1 in 5 Americans is borrowing from their credit cards just to make ends meet. Sounds like a prosperous world? Well, maybe you live in a nice part of town, but I can promise you, right here where I live in Las Vegas, there are Hoovervilles everywhere. I mean, entire towns are turning into tent villages. Drive through your own neighborhoods and you'll start to see things in a different light. Maybe you're one of the lucky ones out here, or maybe you're one of those that are so indebted right now that if you zero out what you owe and what you own, you have a negative net worth. Negative. It's very sad. But this is the truth. Anyway, so in summary here, right now stocks look like they're poised for a lower open. Metals and crypto are flat. Crude oil is not able to hold on to its gains. Like I said, this should scare you. Get ready for another strike. Oh, and by the way, the Pentagon said President Trump's call to strike cultural centers is illegal, and it will not happen, kind of like I said yesterday. Anyway, I think the man has literally lost his mind. But that's a whole other thing. But he's a puppet. He's a puppet. And all presidents are puppets. And like I said a million times, the world is not run by presidents, kings, queens, or monarchs. The world is run by the banks. Once you understand that, you know the agenda. Everything will be simple to you to understand what you need to do, how to get yourself ready for what's coming down the pike. Because there's just no doubt about it. This guy loves you. Please share the video, and I'll see you at the end of the day.